Well, Derek Gatherer is a virologist at Lancaster University in the UK. He joins me now for more on this story. Derek, thank you very much for your time. So the WHO has declared Guinea Ebola-free then. Does this mean that we won't be seeing the disease return to Guinea anytime soon?
Unfortunately, it doesn't, because we know that there is always a risk after an Ebola outbreak that there will be a second Ebola outbreak in the same area within about a year to 18 months. And previously, we didn't have very much idea why this would happen. It's a phenomenon that was observed in previous outbreaks in Central Africa on several occasions. And what we've learned perhaps from the current epidemic is that it may be that the virus staying dormant in survivors means that the virus can then reappear, perhaps by sexual transmission from male survivors. So we have to be very vigilant and appreciate that there is a strong likelihood that within a year or 18 months we could see another small Ebola outbreak flare up in this same part of West Africa.
What about how this particular outbreak was handled initially by the regional authorities? Were they successful? Could it have been handled better?
I think part of the problem was that nobody expected to see Ebola virus in this part of West Africa. It was generally believed it was a disease of Central Africa. Nobody expected it to turn up in West Africa. Also, Lassa fever, which is a much less serious disease, but nevertheless fairly similar in terms of its symptoms, is very common. So the initial outbreak in the villages in eastern Guinea was probably misdiagnosed as Lassa fever or something else in the initial stages. However, once it did get started, the response was quite slow, and the World Health Organization has acknowledged this in a long and rather self-critical report that came out last month. But getting the mechanisms in place to make sure that we have better surveillance is not a trivial matter. So Africa is still in some considerable danger from Ebola.
Did the West African countries, could they have had more support from the international community?
The international efforts, once they got going, were really very helpful. We had large treatment centres and assessment centres and diagnostic centres set up by about October or November of last year, of 2014. In fact, by then there's some evidence that the outbreak had already started to come down in monthly case numbers. And it seems that the really important factor, that this is not to diminish the international response, but one of the really important factors was that local people learned to start doing things like hand washing and avoiding close personal contact, and that this was possibly the reason why the outbreak started to come down from its peak in the summer of 2014. But the international response, once it got going, was very good indeed.
Okay, Derek Gatherer, thank you very much for your insight and thank you for your time.